What's up? How's it going? In the near future, a journalist is covering a serious incident at the famous hotel known as the Resort, which is causing authorities to consider reactivating the Brimstone protocol. A decade ago, the chroma syndrome virus swept the globe, infecting nearly 2 billion people. But the true horror wasn't just the infection, it was what came after. The virus first killed its victims only to bring them back as zombies. This triggered a devastating war between the living and the living dead. With no interest from Pfizer in developing a cure, the government turned to Brimstone, a series of brutal bombing runs targeting infected zones. Currently, the zombie threat has been drastically reduced. The few remaining living dead are confined to a remote island in the Pacific. Billionaire Valerie Wilton transformed this island into an exclusive luxury resort, like a high-end game preserve. Tourists fly in to hunt zombies for sport and entertainment, fencing the island off from a refugee camp funded by the non-profit organization Hope for You, chaired by Valerie herself, who claims her organization is dedicated to alleviating the ongoing refugee crisis. But just when humanity is starting to recover from the nightmare of the war, the threat of a new outbreak emerges. The high-security luxury island can no longer guarantee safety. Suddenly, several bombers fly low right over the journalist's head. 10 days earlier, in London, a young woman named Melanie was returning home after a support group meeting. She suffers from PTSD as she lost her father during the zombie war, and the trauma still weighs heavily on her. No therapy or medication has been able to ease her pain. As a last hope, she asks her husband Lewis to take her to the resort, hoping a change of scenery might help her finally start to heal. That night, Melanie wakes up in a panic. She asks Lewis what it's like to face zombies, and he shrugs, comparing it to hunting rats. Later, she watches a video her father recorded shortly before he died. On the screen, he once again asks Melanie to stay strong and fight for her life. The next day, Melanie and Lewis arrive at the resort's airbase. Among the other guests are Jack and Alfie, two teenagers who won the trip in a video game contest. Sadie, a young woman who was left at the altar just hours before her wedding. And Archer, a middle-aged war veteran. While having drinks in the airport lounge, Melanie notices a refugee girl standing behind a fence, holding a toy in her hand. Melanie tries to approach the girl, but moments later the mother pulls her away, leaving Melanie alone. Shortly after, the guests are taken to the resort on a boat. Before the zombie hunt begins, everyone goes through a weapons briefing. Melanie skips the lesson, as Lewis, being an experienced soldier in the British Army, has already trained her. That night, the guests gather for dinner, where Valerie Wilton, the resort's CEO, gives a speech about the resort's mission to help visitors confront and heal the scars left by the zombie war. Meanwhile, restless and anxious, Sadie sneaks into the resort's control center and hacks the security system. She downloads some files onto a flash drive just before leaving, but a suspicious Archer sees her. At the same time, Valerie brings a zombified woman onto the stage, offering the guests a chilling preview of the horrors they will face in the next day's hunt. Later, the security team detects a breach in the system and panics about what to do next. But paralyzed by fear of their CEO, the engineers keep it to themselves, trying to fix the problem behind the scenes without alerting her. The next day, the group leaves the hotel for a safari beyond the resort's perimeter. When security tries to close the automated gates, the system begins to glitch and malfunction. Wilton notices immediately and demands the technicians fix it. Meanwhile, the group arrives at the hunting grounds, where they receive detailed instructions and are warned to follow strict safety protocols. The tourists step onto a platform overlooking hundreds of zombies moving just below, preparing for the hunt. Sadie, uncomfortable, suddenly decides she can't shoot. Archer keeps shooting suspicious glances at her, and Lewis encourages Melanie to release her frustration through the rifle. She watches as he lines up his shot and hits a zombie right between the eyes. Finally, Melanie picks up the rifle and steadies her aim on a female zombie, only to find the creature's eyes locked on hers. Worried, Melanie lowers her gun. But before anyone can react, Archer grabs his shotgun and fires a rapid burst of shots, each one hitting a zombie right between the eyes. The other tourists watch in awe of his precision. A few hours later, the group is taken to a remote campsite where they will spend the night. There, Melanie is frustrated and confides in her husband that spending thousands of dollars on this adventure probably wasn't such a good idea. She simply can't shoot people, even if they have turned into zombies. Lewis tries to calm her down, promising that next time she'll do better. Meanwhile, Archer strikes up a conversation with Sadie. He wants to understand why she went there if she doesn't even like shooting, and she explains that her ex-fiancé paid for the trip, and now she's just trying to enjoy nature. Back at the resort, the security situation is spiraling out of control. Initially reluctant to reveal the full extent of the problem, the head of security finally admits that a hacker breached the system and released a virus that is difficult to extract. Suddenly, the entire security system goes dark. Everyone on the island knows that if they don't fix it fast, the resort will be overrun by zombies in minutes. But the virus is sophisticated, and the chances of stopping it are slim. The team rushes to alert all the guides, but it's already too late. Meanwhile, another group of tourists is hunting zombies in a different way. They roam through buildings, shooting monsters that have been contained by special chains, but the system glitch causes all restraints to fail at once, and suddenly the zombies are free. The second group is just finishing up when they are ambushed. One guy manages to put a bullet in a zombie's head, but another is caught off guard from the opposite side. Realizing the chaos is out of control, the remaining guests scatter in panic, fleeing the scene. Inside the resort, zombies now dominate the grounds, attacking anyone they can catch, guests and staff alike. To make matters worse, the living dead invade the control center, infecting the engineers working to restore security. When Valerie sees a zombie lunging at her, she runs to her office in terror, leaving her trapped team behind. With the control center lost, Operation Brimstone is automatically activated. The island is now on a countdown. The survivors have only a few hours to escape before it self-destructs. Meanwhile, the group camping nearby remains completely oblivious to the outbreak. Late at night, Melanie and Sadie are on edge and sit by the fire, talking about why they went to the island. But just as they start to open up, a zombie comes stumbling toward them in the darkness. Scared, Melanie screams for everyone to wake up and tells Sadie to shoot, but she freezes, unable to pull the trigger. The zombie lunges just in time, and Archer takes it down with a single shot. The guide insists that this shouldn't be possible, as zombies have never come this close to the camp before. He turns on the truck's lights to scan the area, and they see an entire horde of zombies approaching them. The men open fire immediately while Melanie and Sadie run for cover. One of the creatures nearly grabs Melanie, but Sadie manages to pull her away at the last second. The guide jumps into the vehicle and tries to call for backup, but the only response is an automated message. The Brimstone protocol has been activated, and the island will be destroyed in a few hours. Meanwhile, the group climbs onto the roof of the vehicle, staying alert. But just as a terrified Alfie tries to climb up, a zombie grabs him and bites him. Already infected, he doesn't even have time to react. Lewis, cold and focused, eliminates him and the zombie with 2 precise shots. After a while, Archer asks everyone to stop shooting, as the zombies in the area have been taken down. But with danger still looming, the group has no choice but to spend the night on the roof of the vehicle. By morning, the guide, visibly shaken, warns that time is running out and the Brimstone protocol is close to full activation. When that happens, the island will be firebombed to exterminate every last zombie. He also explains that an evacuation plan was originally in place for the resort staff, but their vehicle is out of service, and there's no way they can reach the coast on foot in time. Still, Archer refuses to just sit and wait for the end. He suggests taking a shortcut through the interior, knowing that staying put isn't an option. As they move, he suddenly stops the group, saying he heard something. A zombie attacks Jack, but the guide reacts in time, taking it down with a shot. Upon closer inspection, he notices the zombie was once his colleague. They continue in silence until they find a wrecked safari truck that crashed into a fence. One by one, they squeeze through to the other side. Just then, a new horde of zombies appears and starts moving toward them. The men fire to buy time, and one of the zombies grabs Melanie by the neck. But this time, Sadie doesn't hesitate. She pulls the trigger and saves her friend. Finally, the group gets through the fence, but just when they think they're safe, a zombie appears out of nowhere and sinks its teeth into the guide while everyone watches in horror. Lewis raises his gun and puts the man down, knowing there's no saving him now. Before long, the group spots a communications tower in the distance. However, just as they are about to move forward, Archer threatens to leave Sadie behind unless she reveals what she was doing in the control center that day. Realizing she has no way out, Sadie is forced to reveal that she is a member of a zombie rights activist group, fighting to end the cruelty inflicted on the unfortunate infected. She was sent to the resort to download files from its main system, evidence of unethical practices meant to expose the resort and shut it down for good. But Jack suspects Sadie was betrayed by her own people. It turns out that when she plugged in the flash drive to download the files, it unleashed a virus into the system, completely compromising the resort's security. Sadie is devastated by the truth, but only Melanie shows any sympathy and promises not to abandon her. To reach the communications tower, the group must pass through a section of buildings. Human flesh covers the area, and the place is infested with zombies. Fortunately, they manage to enter the building without alerting the monsters. Trying to stay hidden, the group splits up and enters separate corridors. Archer, Melanie, and Lewis take one route, while Jack and Sadie take another. Eventually, Archer's group finds an exit and manages to get out alive. But Jack and Sadie aren't so lucky. They are attacked by zombies. As Sadie fights to help Jack escape, she gets bitten. Realizing she will turn soon, she hands the flash drive to Jack with tears in her eyes and begs him to run. Moments later, she is torn apart by the creatures. There are only 55 minutes left until Brimstone activates. Terrified, Jack runs to rejoin Archer's group, and together they make their way through the dark hotel corridors. Moving cautiously, they find several zombies locked in cages. Suddenly, one falls from the ceiling, landing right on top of Jack and biting him on the neck. He begins to turn, and Archer has no choice but to shoot him. Afterward, he, Lewis, and Melanie press on, but they realize they've stumbled upon a refugee camp, one funded by Valerie Wilton. They finally understand that the organization is a front. Refugees are lured to the island with promises of food and shelter, only to be turned into zombies to sustain the resort's dark business. Suddenly, the same little girl Melanie saw at the airport appears from one of the tents, now a zombie. She screams for the other infected to emerge. Panicked, the group runs back inside, and Archer fires back, slamming the door behind them. The zombies keep banging on the door, and Melanie jumps in to help hold it shut. She calls for Lewis to help, but instead he grabs a chain hanging from the open ceiling and climbs up, abandoning them. Archer quickly urges Melanie to do the same. As soon as she is safe, Archer sacrifices himself, taking down several zombies in the process. Melanie finds herself alone in the eerie hotel lobby, now teeming with the living dead. She grabs a pistol and tries to move unnoticed, but suddenly Lewis appears. He apologizes for leaving her behind, but when Melanie sees a bite mark on his arm, she raises the gun at him. She can't pull the trigger. Instead, she hands the gun to Lewis and lets him decide his own fate. At that moment, another wave of zombies floods the room. Melanie grabs a second gun and runs through the dark corridors once more. Suddenly, Valerie Wilton, the CEO, pulls her into her office, claiming the only way out is through the emergency exit. With only 5 minutes left until the explosion, she struggles to think of a way to distract the zombies. But Melanie, furious, accuses her of turning refugees into zombies and profiting from their suffering. Valerie freaks out and tries to wrestle the gun from Melanie's hands, and it falls to the floor. Before either of them can grab it, a horde of zombies bursts into the room and surrounds Valerie. Melanie narrowly escapes the building, but more zombies are right behind her. As she runs for her life, the Brimstone protocol is finally activated. Melanie jumps into the sea just as the island is destroyed by airstrikes. Soon after, rescue helicopters arrive, and Melanie manages to return safely to the mainland. Shortly after the incident, she exposes the truth about Valerie Wilton's organization, and her story is broadcast all over the world. Meanwhile, Archer, who somehow managed to escape the island, sits in a bar watching Melanie's testimony on TV. Melanie doesn't appear on screen, but her voice is heard in an audio message. She claims that when humanity won the war against the zombies 10 years ago, it lost its sense of community. She also suggests that another zombie war might be coming. Later, a reporter covers the incident live from the island. Suddenly, a group of zombies emerges from the water right in the middle of the broadcast. It turns out some of them survived the bombing and reached the other side of the island. So, a new war is indeed dangerously close. Ending the Resort, a 2015 horror thriller. This was a summary of full-length films, and I'll see you in the next video.